with that conversation, but I'll be seeing you again at the top of the hour with the news center. Keep watching.
By the way, he was my classmate in the university from first to third year. Then we went to the School of Law. Then he started a law firm in Mombasa. Then I think he became a judge just before the new constitution came into effect around 2009 to 10 somewhere there. But I know Said Chitembe, and I know I've been in the justice sector now for almost 30 years. And Said Chitembe is like, there are worse judges than him, that, nobody's touching. There are guys who makes Chitembe looks like a saint, because they do all kind of things. There's no accountability in the judiciary, in terms of holding judges and magistrates accountable. The system is broken. It doesn't work. It's only when something very big like Chitembe, because Chitembe, there was a lot of videos, I think, made by Sonko. It's only when the public is outraged that the Judicial Service Commission takes action. But the justice system doesn't work. It's broken down. The JSC doesn't work. It's broken down. Complaints are not processed in time. They are not taken seriously. So Said Chitembe is an outlier. It's one case, that...
You're saying he's among the clean ones?
Relatively clean. You can imagine how dirty the system is.
You've been quite vocal about that. You say it all the time.
I say it all the time.
A mess.
Nobody takes me seriously, unfortunately. But I told you, I practiced law for 30 years. I have never seen a corrupt judiciary of today than any other time in my career. I practiced in the 90s when Moi was, supreme, when he used to control courts. But those times, the courts were political, and they were, corruption was there, but now it's the norm. And I tell guys, actually, young lawyers, I say, we develop, we have developed such a thick skin that you can argue a case knowing that the judge is bribed, and you still argue it so forcefully. You need to be trained. Because you become a special kind of a human being. You know that the judge is bribed. He will rule against you, but you will do your best and pretend that it's not bribed.
So why doesn't anybody else complain?
Corruption in the judiciary has, people have lost. They have lost faith. It has been normalized. It's normal now. Yeah. If you hear some of the stories, people think it's weird, but people lose a lot of money. A lot of money.
Ahmednasir, the Constitution is only 12 years old, okay? With the enactment of the Constitution, and even just before that, there was this whole radical attempt to clean up the judiciary. The radical surgery by Justice Ringera, all that. And then the Constitution comes in, and we bring in Sharad Rao. Let's vet all the judges and magistrates, and let's make sure that only the good ones are left in office, and many are removed. We have the Judicial Service Commission that then now looks at, we need to increase the capacity of our judiciary. You are in the first Judicial Service Commission in the Constitution. You hired the judges, and subsequent JSCs have hired many judges and looked at the conduct of other judges. Are we saying in 12 short years we've actually come from a moment where we were hopeful of sorting out a system to actually leading it into more rot?
Actually, I tell guys that no country in the world has made attempts like Kenya did in cleaning its judiciary. And no country has spectacularly failed like Kenya has failed. It's not for want of trying that we're in this state of affairs. Kenya has really tried to clean the judiciary, we had the radical surgery that removed 50% of the judges of the High Court and the Court of Appeal. We had the vetting process, which was not as effective as the radical surgery, but still vetted the judges. But, you can't reform the judiciary in isolation of the larger body politic, The executive, people steal every day. Parliament, people steal every day. Government employees, people steal every day. Why do you expect the judiciary to be clean? In Kenya, see, they say you eat where you work.
Well,
So the judiciary,
The judges work in the judiciary.
it's not an exception. You know, when we were forming when I was in the first JC, we were very idealistic. We thought this is a new constitution. We will reform. We employed people we know, we vouched for.
Yeah.
I remember, like the Supreme Court, when we were creating, we said, let us see guys, some heavyweight academia, guys with certain gravitas. We ensured that, the judges who are there are completely excluded. The people we employed are worse than the people we left. That I can tell you. For me,
So how come?
For me, it's
How
seven
did that
people.
happen?
There are some guys I know. Someone in my classmate, we have practiced law together. He is failing. Then you take him to the bench. He becomes the worst person you ever see.
What
Why?
changes?
Why? What happens?
It's the greed. You'll see. There's court cases involve a lot of money. There's a lot of things. There are billions of claims, and what is you see they get just enticed. And also, to be fair, lawyers are the ones who pull the deals. They are the ones who know the judges. Some litigants, of course, know the judges. And everybody wants to, have a shortcut. But to be fair, there are many good judges, Very, very good judges. Very honest, very fair. And I always make the point, especially the Court of Appeal. If you go to the Court of Appeal, you get justice. The court now is a little bit efficient than it was last time because now there are 30 judges. They want to increase more. But it is, it depends on the individual judge. There are people, when you appear before them, that you will get justice according to the strength of your case. And some, that no matter how good your case is, it's a lost cause. Yes.
Unless you're a higher bidder.
Nowadays.
So is it that the law profession then is the one that is rotten?
Also,
Because you say
sometimes sometimes it helps. Who is in the leadership of the judiciary. For example, when Willie Mutunga was there, he was well respected. He used to talk about corruption a lot. I tell guys, when Maraga came, you will not see a single speech he made against corruption. You will find it. The last day when he was leaving farewell, he made some speech about corruption. He never talked about corruption. The current CJ is even worse, in all fair. She's clueless, to be fair.
With regards to corruption?
Of course. Have you seen her talk about corruption in the judiciary? She doesn't. Yes. She talks about children rights and those kind of things. She talks about access to justice. What justice do you access in Kenyan courts? There's no justice. She sells a product she has no idea about. Yes. When you tell Kenyans, we want access to justice, you are telling Kenyans there's a product called justice.
That can be delivered.
That can be accessed, in the shortest time, in the nearest distance, all those kind of things. But the Chief Justice doesn't know any idea about what kind of justice the Kenyan courts dispense. And that's the tragedy. Yes.
What makes you say that she doesn't have an idea?
Because I have eyes and ears. I see and I hear. And I've not had anything during her tenure about fighting corruption. When we have corruption in the highest court, in the lowest court, in the middle courts, everywhere. Yes. And it's for me, this is a national crisis, but nobody talks about it.
So you talk about, the corruption in the judiciary is giving an image of what the rest of the country looks like. As you said, the executive, there's a problem. Parliament, there's a problem. Why should we be surprised that there's a problem in the judiciary? So then giving us an inroad now into what's happening in the country today, where everything seems to be going wrong. People are hungry, there's drought, children, school can't afford, everything is rising in terms of cost. What would be your thought about how action then provokes this kind of situation, or inaction provokes this kind of situation?
Actually, it's inaction more than action, because of course there are institutions and organs that are supposed to fight, corruption, bad governance, all, and brings a certain amount of accountability. Those institutions don't work in Kenya. If you look at the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, they have a huge mandate, they have huge resources, they don't follow. If we look at, for example, the Kibaki, the Uhuru administration, a minister, he lives in South Sea. There's nothing wrong with South Sea. I used to live there a lot. I mean, you have a good house of maybe 10, 15 million or 20 million. You are made a minister. The next time you're out of the neighborhood, you move into a palatial home either in Modaiga or Karen or Runda, and nobody asks you where you got the money. Yes. The moment, then the next time is he acquires others, he acquires properties, he does this, he invests this. That lack of accountability is what is destroying this country. Yes. I mean, I would love to see someone who is a minister, lives in South Sea, stays in South Sea during his term, and retires in South Sea. Yes. But when you are, for example, a university lecturer, I was a lecturer once upon a time, and your salary is 80,000, 90,000, you live, for example, in Ngong, then you are made a minister, then you move into Karen. Theft of public funds is not punished in Kenya. Yes. And it has not been punished. Although there are institutions who are supposed to punish that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happens? I mean, with those, we've seen, for example, in the last number of months or weeks, it's the issue of all the cases that are being investigated. Many of the cases that are being investigated, some being prosecuted in court, being withdrawn, or them collapsing in court. And the major reason is weaknesses in the link between the ODPP and the DCI. What does that tell us? Is it a collapse of the institutions, or is it manipulation of the institution?
No, I think there's a bigger problem that nobody addresses in terms of this issue, is that during the last 5 years, institutions, literally broke down. And President Uhuru was everything, in my view. He was the DPP, he was the Attorney General, he was the President, he was Parliament, he was the opposition. And most of these cases that were taken to court were taken because he ordered them to. Yes. It's not because, someone either investigated or the DPP made an independent decision. President Uhuru ordered these officers to take this course with a gun in their head. Yes. It's not because there was evidence or anything, but it was having a certain political objective. Yes.
So let's look at the 19 cases that have been dropped in the last 3 months. 19. And that they were saying that there was either some elements of corruption, there was some kind of mismanagement of funds. Are we saying really that these individuals, there was no stain whatsoever, there was no misappropriation, it was a witch hunt by the presidency, the previous one?
More than anything, it was a witch hunt, yes. More than anything. Of course, there may be certain elements of misbehavior, but in my view, and I think I'm correct, there was no credible case that could be taken to court, but still matters were taken to court on the instructions of the former president, yes.
But these offices that we're talking about are actually independent offices.
But Kenya, independent.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is an independent constitutional office.
I tweeted about this many years ago, and there was credible evidence at that time that most of these officers who were holding this office, from the DPP, from the anti-corruption, from the CID, each of them were forced to sign a letter of resignation.
At the point of appointment?
No. At a certain point in their tenure, held by a certain office on the instruction of the presidents, and people were working in those independent offices with a letter of resignation somewhere. And everybody knew that.
So how come nobody talked about it? Why were these officers...
We talked about it.
Why were the officers not resigning, actually?
I mean, that's personal. I don't know why they didn't resign. But people were working on the premise that they were holding certain constitutional office, but with a letter of resignation signed, I don't know whether it was dated, but held by certain offices of state.
All it needed was just to add the date.
Yes.
What if the numbers are traced for some reason, and that these amounts, for example, that the EACC says were misappropriated or missing, that there actually is a dent, that this money is actually missing?
No, there's a lot of theft in this country, but you see.
But we're saying that it's not these particular, because I'm still on that, Ahmednasir. I'm still on that. They were saying it's not these individuals, because it's baffling to me that so many cases that have been brought before the courts, there were charge sheets in some of the cases. People's names have been dragged through the court of public opinion for months on end, and then a new administration takes power, and then voila, they're dropped.
But you know, these cases are, most of them are against private individuals.
Yes.
Most of them are on tax issues and those kind of things.
Yes.
That is when, I mean, that's not the corruption that's killing Kenya. The corruption that's killing Kenya is someone who has a powerful office, pulling the strings, making a lot of money, stealing here, there, stealing there. I mean, if it's tax, you know, I mean, you can always sit down on matters of tax and agree upon what you should pay.
Yeah.
But what's killing, for example, is that I'm a powerful minister in the office of the president. My budget is, I control a budget of almost 500 billion shillings.
Yep.
I used to live in Siyokamau. Then I start buying properties, 500 acres somewhere, 500. That is the corruption that is killing Kenya. And during the tenure of President Uhuru, not a single person, especially the last 5 years, was taken to court on the basis that, you know, I mean, you used to live in Siyokamau. How are you living in Muthaiga now? Yes. And that's what's killing Kenya.
What are we talking about here, Ahmednasir? We, like again, 12 years of a new constitution, renewed hope. I was in Uhuru Park on that day in August 2010 when we were proclamating the new constitution was being promulgated. And there was this new air of a new dawn, a new country, the new flag being hoisted at Uhuru Park. And everybody's thinking now we are moving. And everybody's talking about the new hope because, one, we have sufficiently removed power and focus from one office called the presidency. We have distributed it into institutions. We have even created those institutions to be independent and safeguarded their independence. And now here we are saying that we actually didn't do it. It was just smokes and mirrors. That the president is still the one who is actually controlling all these independent offices.
It's true. I mean, that's the way it is.
So what happened? How could this have happened? Is it the spirit or the letter of the law? What?
No. Sometimes also it depends on the individual. You know, I mean, if you want to be a straight person, you will be a straight person. If, for example, a judge, there are many judges who decide not to take bribe. It's a personal decision. There are guys who decide they will take bribes. But there are certain institutions that should provide oversight.
Yeah.
Yes. It's those institutions that are failing, not because, I mean, the president is controlling or not, but the person who, for example, there's a judge, I mean, they, like other Kenyans, they buy properties everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's easy to tell them, you know, how are you buying this property? How can you afford your kids to go to a private school and you pay, you know, 1 million shillings a term and you are a judge who earns 800, 600. So these are things that need to be investigated. There are offices that should investigate, but they are not doing their jobs.
Why?
I don't know. I mean,
I see a conspiracy, not only with those officers, but even with those that are supposed to be oversighting. And oversighting here is not just the National Assembly. Oversighting here is also other institutions. The Law Society of Kenya, right? Created by statute. It represents this profession that should be speaking out. Law Society of Kenya, quiet. ISPAC, the Institution for Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, quiet. Corruption happens. It's money issues. ISPAC, quiet. So is it a collusion by all these institutions as well? Just to say, let us sit back and let's enjoy.
Actually, it's not, I mean, leave alone those, quasi-private institutions like the Law Society and ISPAC. I mean, you know, like the police, And I tweeted this actually last week. I said, any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it is corruption, whether it is murder, whether it is petty, that is his job.
Yeah.
But in Kenya, you know, the Inspector General moves into action either when petty crimes are committed or whether, you know, a big politicians order him to do. But it is his job. For example, if he sees Ahmed is a university lecturer and he has bought a big property somewhere, it is the police to investigate. I mean, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission is a very powerful organ. I mean, they do nothing about this. There are other organs, you know, like the Judicial Service Commission, all this. Okay. We have a beautiful constitution, but we have an institutional decay caused principally because of the people who hold the offices don't see their functions in proper perspective.
Let's take a break. When you come back, you'll tell us you're a supporter of the Kenya Kwanza administration, whether they are actually